You're listening to CX Passport, the show about creating great customer experiences with a dash of travel talk. Each episode, we'll talk with our guest about great CX, travel, and just like the best journeys, explore new directions we never anticipated. I'm your host, Rick Denton. I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport. Let's get going. If you're in the customer experience world, you've probably seen today's guest, Faran Niaz, as one of the most visible voices of CX, certainly in the Middle East, but really worldwide. Faran shares his customer experience wisdom that was gained with over 25 years in the industry. 25 years, you say? We were hardly calling things customer experience then, right? Exactly. And that's what makes Faran's perspective so valuable. He's been there from the early origins of the space. In addition to the calendar depth, Faran has a wonderfully global set of experiences that help shape his CX perspective today. He even warms your CX Passport host's heart by saying he's been to my home state of Texas here in the U.S. on a visit to San Antonio. Along with a bevy of speaking experiences, Faran recently was published as part of Customer Experience 4, which released earlier this year. I'm extremely excited to learn from Faran's expansive CX wisdom. Faran, welcome to CX Passport.
Thank you very much. I absolutely love the introduction. Thank you so much. It was quite...
Well, next time you're speaking, I'll be happy to introduce you. I would love that. You've got such a storied background, and it's so much fun to getting to know you and learn about that. And I'm eager for our listeners to hear some of that today as well.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. Makes me feel warm. Well, before you started your consultancy, CX Future, you were at a bank. And that bank was ranked in the 20s years ago for CX, but is now at the top of those marks. And those are real marks, not just marketing. The government ranks companies. More about that later. Walk us through how you started that journey and what it took to get to number one.
Yeah, very interesting. And in your conversation, you mentioned something that in 25 years, I mean, that sounds a lot of time, but I'm very proud that I've been in this field passionately. Yes, I've seen it moving from service to many other words which have been used, words like hospitality.
Okay.
Some other words, and then the customer experience, which is pretty new, came here. My journey with the last bank was quite interesting. In fact, I started with Citibank and I was with Citibank for 10 years, including some time in Russia as well. And then I was brought into UAE world by one of the largest banks here. Mm-hmm. 3 years I worked for them. And then I was quite, thank God, it was kind. I was picked up from the market by the CEO directly for this bank. And he said, Faran, our service is very bad. You need to come and fix it. At this point of time, I didn't realize what it meant. But then he shared with me a list which the government, as you said, UAE government, and with a private company, they publish it, where they rank each bank on a certain criteria as which bank is the number one bank in service and customer experience. And this bank was number 23 out of 27.
Oh, wow. Oh, so okay. I didn't realize it was that.
You can imagine where it was. I love challenges. And I immediately realized, wow, this is a canvas. This is a huge bank. They have ambition and they want to be better. And what I really liked is that the CEO was directly passionate, was so passionate about customer experience. And I think most of the organizations that do so well, where customer experience trickles down from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And it's a passion from the C-suite itself. So I had that kind of support. And when I look back, those 10 years, it took us about 2.5, 3 years to reach the number one. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a journey from 23rd. I remember we went to 18 to 3rd, and then 1. And for the last 7 years and 8 years, number one bank in customer experience in UAE. Yeah. Won multiple other awards. How did we do it? I have a very simple formula. There are two simple things that I did. There are a lot of frameworks people use. I love frameworks, but I'm not a framework person. I am a hardcore person who goes in the field, understands what the customer wants. Simply, if you listen to the customer, and second most important thing, which to me is the most important one, listen to your staff. Listen to your employees, because they're the ones who are delivering the service. The amount of information that I got from my staff who told me what was going wrong. and what customer really wanted
Yeah.
and what the bank was doing. And that helped me to bridge the gap.
I want to hear more about that, but I just want to interject and say it is amazing how many companies don't listen to their front line. They invest heavily in tools. They invest all sorts of social listening paths and all that. And those aren't bad. Yeah. But if you aren't just asking your front line who interacts with the customer, hey, what is it that the customers love? What is it the customers hate? You can get so much insight just right there. It's amazing. And I'm so glad to hear that that was a part of that. So sorry to interrupt the journey that you were going through, but it's so important.
Yeah, let me clarify a little bit more what listening means.
Yeah.
A lot of organizations are actually listening to their customers, but there is a difference between listening and understanding what they want.
Yes.
So for example, for me, it's very important because I rose through the ranks. I started my career in the call center. I know exactly what those people want. Mm-hmm. They want somebody to know their problems. They want somebody that if the organization is making a promise, can this promise be made? It's very easy to give them a script that says, oh, sir, open an account with us. You will get your, let's say, account open in 3 days, and you'll get your credit card in 4 business days. But if the back end and operation is not in sync and the card is done in 7 days, that promise is lost.
Yeah.
The guy has done an amazing job. The front end is polite, they're understanding, they script it, they're doing a great job. But for customer, that promise is lost. And who loses the value in the face is the front end.
Boy.
So what I was doing, I made sure that whatever was being promised was being delivered. So I was not just listening. I created, I would call it sense of trust. So there was a trust. They said, oh, here is a guy who's here to really, really help us. I made sure that they got empowered. A lot of stuff. For me, the first call resolution is very, very important in the call center in the front end. So here is a very simple formula. And for many organizations, I'm sure have found this formula. Listen to your staffs, listen to the customer, but read through the lines. Listen and read what exactly they want. Give it to them. They'll be on your side.
And it's something you said in there. I'm getting all excited here because you and I are even more of a shared mind than I think I even realized. That idea of listen, but then you're talking about and act and do something about it and earn that trust by actually doing something about it. You know, one of the things that really intrigues me so much about what you said is equipping that front line. That idea of first call resolution, giving them the tools to be able to deliver on that experience, and then extending that one level further. I mean, my company name is Execution for Customer Experience. That operation side of it, that it's great if you've developed empathy. It's great if you've developed your staff to be incredibly kind and thoughtful and probing in their questions. But if you don't have the back end operations, you aren't delivering great customer experience. So that is something that really intrigued me in what you said about that story is not just frontline, not just CX, but that operational back end has got to be in sync.
Absolutely. And here comes the difference between customer service and customer experience. So service is that transaction, is my interaction with the staff, but the experience is the end-to-end journey.
Yeah.
And that's what the customer is looking for. Now, whichever channel, whichever mode they connect to within any organization, not just a financial institution, any organization, that becomes the face of that organization. And that journey starts there. And sometimes the journey needs to end there.
Yes. And that idea of end to end, it's so funny. There's a conversation I'm going to have with a fellow customer experience colleague on Wednesday, Nicholas Zeisler. He and I are going to do a LinkedIn Live event, and your episode will release after that. So I guess I'm talking about the past while I'm talking about the future, but we're talking about exactly that. And he even talks about that idea of the end to end aspect of it. The definition of end to end has different meanings inside of a company. And so what does that look like when you say end to end is so important. And I can see why that is how you were able to guide that bank from languishing in the 20s to being top number one.
True. And I think if I would just quickly define this end to end, for me, small difference, the organization should not define that end to end. The customer needs to define the end to end.
Yes. Oh, so man.
It doesn't matter how well we think that journey looks like, but if the customer doesn't agree with it, if the customer doesn't approve of that journey, then that's where the small difference is.
Oh, that's so true. So let me ask you this: you with a multiple decades of experience, you mentioned Russia, you mentioned other elements of your background. You've got responsibility that crosses international borders and cultures. You've had to deal with customer experience that isn't just where you are physically. It's also not just the customer experience that is what you grew up with, but you've had to do this across the globe. So there has to be some unique elements in delivering customer experience when it's that scenario. How have you ensured customer experience meets the needs of that wide diversity of cultures and regions?
Yeah, I think excellent question. Two elements to this. You're talking about customer needs, and then you're talking about cultures. So let me define customer needs. It doesn't matter which culture, which continent, which area you are. Customer needs are similar. A customer wants quick service. A customer wants their things to be done on time. The customer wants the best, a wow experience, empathy, and they want that to be heard. That across is the same. So no matter which region you are, I've seen customers from all parts of the world, almost every continent. Very simple. They wanted their stuff to be done. They want somebody to listen to them. They want somebody to help them when they have a problem. They want their problems to be solved quickly.
Right.
And they want best product, best service, and that's. But when it comes to culture, because that's where the delivery comes in.
Yeah.
And culture, very important to understand. And I think I was very privileged. It's not that I had the privilege to work with those. I had the opportunity to learn myself as well.
Yeah.
There was so much learning. When I moved from that part of the world, I've been in Europe as well. And as you said, that Texas, when I went to the largest call center Citibank had in Texas, San Antonio, wow, what an eye-opener it was for me to walk through the aisles and people are hustling and bustling and they're enjoying themselves. And, it was like a party scene for me. And I picked it up and I said, whoa, I'm going to go back. I'm going to do the same in Pakistan when I started the call center.
Okay.
And I brought that. Like, for example, this is one thing that I did, and it's across the culture. We started putting balloons up in the air. Each balloon has a free gift. And every time you make a sale and you stand up and you pop the balloon and everybody claps and those kind of things. And when I did the same I'm no shame in saying this, I did the same in Russia. And the call center agent stood up and said, we're not kids. This is not a birthday party. And you realize, oh my God, the same thing doesn't work in this part of the world.
Yeah.
I need to come up with a different strategy.
Yeah.
When I moved to UAE, a slight cultural shock. The difference between, it was so gender driven.
Okay.
Did you know that I had separate branches for females?
Interesting.
Separate queues for ladies.
Okay.
Even in the ATM, if you are a lady and your card, you get an enhanced queue, and you have a priority over the others. And it's not because you're a female; it's because of respect in this part of the world, which is Middle East. It's like because they consider the women as the mothers, sisters, daughters who need to be taken care of.
Okay.
So the element of respect when you're in their presence, how you treat with them, how you deal with them was very different than that I saw, and over a period of time it diminished. Now same queues, same everything, because obviously, but that's what I also in this part of the world I saw that I could motivate staff, the local population, by creating a sense of internal competition.
Okay.
They love to compete with each other. So if I go to a local guy and say, by the way, you're a branch manager, your friend who's another branch manager has better NPS than you, he gets offended. He said, no, I want to be better than my friend.
Yeah.
So that level, it really helped me, because I would go to those people and understand. So you need to understand the psyche of different cultures, and it's very, very interesting how different cultures.
Yeah. And so how did you handle things like that? So now that you have this experience, you have it. So you know that you can't create the party scene in, say a Russian or an Eastern European culture. You know that the competition is a very important thing in the Middle East culture. You know that what you just described as respect to women in the Middle East might be perceived as discrimination in other cultures. And so how did you, before you knew this, because you know it now, but how did you handle that? How did you go into a new situation where you were trying to learn the culture and be able to create great customer experience and employee experience in a new culture for you?
Absolutely. I think excellent question. Again, you have a great set of questions.
Oh, well,
the first thing that I do, and I think which all the senior, unfortunately, when people reach a certain senior level, they don't get their hands dirty. They don't jump into the pool. My first 30 days is to meet everyone in person.
Got it.
I leave everything. I am not meeting senior leadership and I'm not sitting with heads of this. I am meeting staff in their branch. I get up, sit in my car. I went to every branch. 1,500 front-end people. I met each one of them.
Nice. Wow. That's a lot. That's a huge commitment. Yeah.
Sometimes I would just take, let's say, a set of certain group of individuals, like only the tellers. I put them in a nice big hotel room and just talk to them without the supervisors.
Yeah, that's important. Very important.
Then I'll take a set of RMs, area managers, different, and I created a bond with them and I understood through them. I would do this with every continent, every place where I went, and this is what I would urge. Understand these people and these cultures through the people's own voice.
Yeah.
I didn't study it through books. I didn't study it. Yes, I gave you an example where I learned the hard way, but there's so many things that I learned through them and implemented. And you innovate it, and then you can innovate and you can implement.
Yeah. There's such value in that front line. We talked about the front line in the first question, and it just amazes me. It really, I don't have much of a question in what I'm about to say here, but it just amazes me how companies or individuals just don't value that individual relationship. I was just in an episode with Caroline Mealy, and hers was a couple weeks ago, I think it was. Anyway, and she talked about exactly that when she was part of the global touring element of Cirque du Soleil, it was so important to get an understanding of the local culture, talk to the local team that is working there in that place. And it sounds so simple, and so many companies just don't do it. I don't understand why.
And one thing that I always say, that's why if you listen to some of my other talks and speeches and even my writing, I even today tell organizations, digital transformation, such an amazing thing. This is the future, but transformation and digital is an enabler only. Please, technology is an enabler. The deliverers of service are humans. The organizations who find this right balance between technology and human service are the ones who are going to survive. Because nothing can replace empathy and a smile of a human being and a heart touch that a human being can provide. And organizations need to understand and remember this.
I just want to pause on that. What an important point, and one that hits me straight at my heart. And I love it. The idea of, you're right, digital transformation is great. There's so much of our phones and the digital aspect that we want. We actually desire it in a customer experience. But when we need the human, we want the human, and the companies that give us that human, it's so important. Now, I'm going to totally switch topics on you here because I just can't hold it in any longer. I'm looking over your shoulder, and I realize it's an audio podcast, so people can't see this, but there is a stunning Lego collection over your shoulder here on the screen. I'm just curious, how did you become to be so intrigued by Legos? Tell me about that collection.
I am so passionate about Lego. And when I was a small kid, I think I owe it all to my dad because he used to travel a lot. And every time he would come back from somewhere, he would bring Lego for us.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And, when we were children, and we used to Lego in two things. One was Lego and another one was Meccano. They used to be Meccano as well. Both were building. And the thing that I found fascinating about Lego was at that point of time, it used to be free pieces. So the whole thing would come with a lot of pieces and you create your own. So sometimes you're creating a car, and then another with the same pieces, you can create a house. So wherever I went, I like creativity. And it gives me a sense of achievement. Although even if you follow a book and you're following instructions, but when you complete a big car and you see the end product, the sense of achievement, I look around and I say, I did that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I did my largest Lego piece, which is the Falcon Millennium Star Wars, which is 8,000 plus pieces.
Good gravy. Holy cow.
It's huge. It's sitting in my room in the middle and people just come and take pictures. I absolutely adore Legos. It's all over my house. It's part of my life.
Oh, Faran, that's so enjoyable. I love that. And I love the thought of you got started there because your dad would grab a Lego kit from somewhere around the world. And I realize now we can buy almost anything in the world online, but there was that era that there was something particularly unique, that the Lego that was bought in Italy was going to be different than the Lego that was bought in Iceland, that was bought in Ireland, right? So the thought of having these unique things around the world shaping your love of Lego, I love that. It certainly fits the spirit of CX Passport. And in fact, why don't you join me here in that first class lounge? Your dad probably, with all those travels, would love to have some access to that first class lounge. So join me here. Let's move quickly. Let's have a little bit of fun. What is a dream travel location from your past?
Oh, such a difficult question.
Yeah, it is.
I think in my past, I love all the destinations. I've been, mashallah, I've been very, very, thankful to God. I've been to many places, but I enjoy every time going to Disney, to every Disney in the world. I'm like a kid.
Boy, it is amazing how Disney has found a way to delight the kids and delight the adults. It is such a special trip now. Now let's go the other direction. What is a dream travel location you've not been to yet?
Yes, there are two places where it's been eluding me. One is Japan.
Okay.
That's a must place, I think, for everyone. And whoever has been there, I've heard stories that I just absolutely. And I have not been to Australia and New Zealand side. I'm a big fan of Lord of Rings as well.
Right.
And I want to go to the Shire in New Zealand. I want to see the Shire itself.
Fair. A lot of times when I ask that question, I'll get a guess and they talk about a place and I've been there and I can share that sort of delight. You have hit both of my places that I want to go to that are dream travel locations. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. My son's going to study in Japan a year from now. So let's all go there while he's studying there at university. What is a favorite thing to eat?
To eat, I love food and I'm not very picky. The thing is, I'm not very picky. So my own food, which is a Pakistani food, is amazing. It's very versatile. It's very, very tasty. So Indian Pakistani food is I'm very fond of Thai food. Mm-hmm. My sister lives in Thailand and for 35 years, so I visit there a lot. It's like my second home. So I got a fondness of Thai food, and we love spices being Pakistanis.
Boy, and when you get that actual authentic Thai food, I've had the chance to travel there. I have a brother-in-law who lived there for years. He's married to a Thai. The home Thai is something special. So you're getting a great experience. Now, you said you weren't picky, so I don't know about this question, but what is a thing your parents forced you to eat, but you hated as a kid?
What an interesting question. One day we're kids and another day we're parents and we're probably pushing stuff into our kids.
Exactly.
And we don't realize what the hell is. No, this is very healthy. It's good for you. Without realizing the kid is going to hate us for their
Guilty.
But there is a Pakistani drink and it's very popular. If you go to Pakistan, it's called lassi.
Okay.
So it's made out of yogurt, water, and a little bit of salt, but it's very healthy, especially when the temperature rises and it reaches around 45 plus. Oof. When you drink it, it really, really, filters you down. Yeah. And it's a great digestive drink as well. And people love it. I hope no Pakistani is listening to me because they would disown me if I say that I don't like lassi. But that's one thing I just could not get out.
Well, we will try to put some sort of disclaimer in the show notes. Please, Faran's awesome. Don't let this one thing cause you to disown him. Oh, goodness. Faran, what is one travel item, not including your phone, that you will not leave home without?
Would you believe that if I tell you there's another secret? My passion is photography. Okay. I have won many awards. My work has been exhibited in Italy and Thailand and Pakistan. And
wow.
So I love photography. And I cannot leave my home without a camera and with my lenses. Absolutely not. And that's why I love traveling, because the way I capture, I love to capture the world from the lens of my camera.
I had truly no idea that you've been exhibited in all those places. That's brilliant. It's amazing. So now let's go back to customer experience here for a little bit. I have always been eager and actually have been actively seeking voices in the Middle East like yours because there's just so much buzz around customer experience in that region. Why do you think there's so much energy around CX in the UAE, but really the entire region?
Yeah. I remember a while ago, I told you where good organization, the difference between, organization which would be a more customer centric is where it is trickled from the top to bottom.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the same case in this part of the world. I have said this in many forums, and I'm just going to say it here as well. This is the only place in the world where I have seen that the government drives customer experience and others follow. In other part of the world, a good organization, for example, when I was with Citibank in some part of the world, Citi was the pioneer of multiple strategies when it came to service or other things, another organization. But here, the government is so far ahead. They would not leave. I have seen things implemented here that I never thought. And why? The passion that the rulers here is phenomenal. And I'll give you a couple of examples. And that's why people love them. And I'm not saying it because I live here. I'm saying it because I have seen it and I'm a witness of it. Where in the world would you see the leader of the country would go and sit and take a queue in a post office, and he's sitting and he looks at the queue and he says, more than 10 minutes posts on and we remember this post on Twitter, and he said, this is not the service I promised the people of this country.
Wow.
These people who are doing this service are not amongst us. When the leader says this is like and then he goes to Ministry of Interior and informs, and the whole world, we read it. I have instructed Ministry of Interior to mystery shop every government organization. In 3 months, I will publish the top 5 and bottom 5 in customer experience.
Oh, wow.
And after 3 months, you pick up the paper, first page, top 5 organization, bottom 5 organizations in customer experience, with all the criterias, names of the CEOs who are the best, names of the CEOs whose organizations at the bottom, fired on the spot, rewarded handsomely the ones who are, and he said, this is an ongoing, every 6 months I'll do it.
Wow.
One day he goes at 8:30, he visits all his top offices, government offices, whichever CEO he does not find on the seat, that person is gone. He said, if you can't be here, how do you expect your staff to be?
Goodness.
And serve the customers. These people are phenomenal. And they feel pride in giving to be, some people, some organizations, some countries, they live for their people, and you can see it. If you visit this country, it's not like a fantasy land. It's a place where people take care of. I'm not even going to say, let's count how many countries, probably the only one. Do you know that there is a Minister of Happiness here? Minister of Happiness.
Wow. Okay.
So there is a ministry that's called Happiness.
Interesting.
And there is a Minister of Happiness.
The Ministry
and
of
the only
Happiness.
responsibility of that ministry is to ensure that the people of the country are happy. And you will see the happiness index of Global Happiness Index. You will see how this country is growing. So I'm just emotionally talking about it. There's so many examples I can give you on technology side and new innovations that they've done. It would take me an entire day, but I just wanted to emphasize is the vision of the leaders which has made it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right when you say it starts at the top, right? And that matters. But for you to talk about the top, right? The government top, and especially in a culture like that where the government, it is really like the top. That's where it starts. But then beyond that, right? It's you said that the energy, the passion, the interest is there, but they could have said just words, but instead they went into action. And I love that thought of the idea of that government leader sitting in the post office and then tweeting about it, live tweeting their experience sitting there in the post office.
I see their visions. They publish visions regularly. Vision 2023 to ensure that every government service would be digitalized. There's a vision, clear vision. And they make sure that they meet their deadlines. And today, every service through the government organization is the only place I know where every service is digital, is online.
Wow, man, that's
smooth. I mean, in COVID, there is nothing that we could not do. Sitting home, I renewed my car, I paid my bills, I did every possible, renewed the visas, issued certificates, everything was done within seconds online.
Whew. I'm sitting here blown away. I've never had the chance to visit there. Now I want to visit.
I really get blown up.
I want the experience there. Now, sadly, I just took a peek at the clock and we are really out of time, but there's a question that I want to ask you because you've mentioned this to me before and you talked about how, so this will be kind of our last question, right? We're closing out with this, but you've spent most of your career in the financial services industry, but I know you've also told me that one of the most important influences you've had was your Disney training. We talked about the magic of Disney, but Disney as a customer service, a customer experience, all of that. I'm a fan of their approach. I love it. And I love that you are as well. But how have you been able to apply the Disney lessons from the hospitality industry into your banking industry?
Yeah. First of all, let me clarify one thing. The beauty about customer experience is that it's not industry driven.
Amen.
Customer experience, the word itself, it's the experience of the customer. Mm-hmm. Does not matter which industry. So if you have a call center, does it matter that it's the call center of a call center that sells a card, or a call center of a hotel that sells a room, or the call center of a telecom company that sells a chip of a telephone? The service is the same, the hospitality. So first of all, this is what we understood, that it's all about hospitality. It's all about caring. So what I brought from Disney is the care element, care. Listen, I'll give you one example what I brought from Disney and Zappos. So during my visit and when I got trained from Disney, I made sure that I went to Zappos as well, which to me is probably the best organization in the world when it comes to customer experience. Okay. I had the honor of meeting Tony as well this evening. And I asked the call center, they take the same number of call centers that my bank was taking, 10,000 calls a day, 300,000 calls a month. They listen to their customer. A customer comes, orders shoes online, and during the conversation, he says that my son is asking for PlayStation, just as a conversation. Yeah. And within 48 hours, the PlayStation is at the door.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, I can't afford it. This is in the US. He's an ex-army. It's not about the PlayStation. It's about those people listening to their customers.
Yeah.
So that's what I brought to my people. I said, please take more time with your customer, but understand, listen to every word. Try to see what the customers need. There is a product side to it. There is a human side to it. And there is a emotion side of somebody who's attached to you with an organization. There's an emotion to it.
Yeah.
So the loyalty to me was the most important one. And that's the element that Disney brings. Loyalty, Zappos brings, Apple brings, Amazon brings, all the big organizations, they create loyal customers. And loyalty comes through, taking care of your customers. And that any industry can do. Any industry. By the way, I got my people trained from Emirates Institute, Emirates Training Institute, which trains the staff of Emirates Airline and Jumeirah Group of Hotels.
At some of the best as customer service there, and to know that they've been trained by that institute as well makes a lot of sense. I love that we closed out with that, because that is so true, that it doesn't matter which industry. The customer compares your bank, the customer compares your car dealership, the customer compares your mobile phone company to their best experience, not to other banks, car dealerships, or mobile phone companies. Absolutely. Brilliant. Faran,
just on one line, if I may just quickly add, I know you're short of time.
Yeah.
That's why we keep defining, and I think the next word in customer experience should be human experience, HX.
Human experience. The one with human experience. I think we got that.
It's customer experience, employee experience, digital experience. That put together makes a human experience for both B2C, B2C, because in the end, it's a human you're talking to.
Yeah, boy, let's close out with that. Faran, it's been wonderful talking with you. I've gotten so many insights all the way from, hey, let's talk about making sure that we get insights from the front line and that we make the company operationally sound, the idea of how global differences in customer experience, the fundamentals are the same, but perhaps the culture is different. Even talking about your Legos, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And closing out with Disney, so important, and the region and the energy that exists there in the Middle East region around customer experience. I'm so glad that you took the time to talk with me today on CX Passport. I've learned a ton. I know our listeners will learn a ton, and it has just been spectacular spending time with you, Faran. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been my honor, absolute honor, to be on CX Passport.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. Make sure to visit our website, cxpassport.com, where you can hit subscribe so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, you can check out the rest of the EX for CX website. If you're looking to get real about customer experience, EX for CX is available to help you increase revenue by starting to listen to your customers and create great experiences for every customer every time. Thanks for listening to CX Passport, and be sure to tune in for our next episode. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.